Thank you for joining us for our Ask the Pastor series, midweek Bible study. We're looking at questions that you have asked me to answer, and it's been a great journey for me as we close out this year. Tonight, we're answering the question, how do I know, or how do we know God is real? Now, I'm going to begin with a verse, and then we're going to go from there. In Romans chapter 1, verse 20, I want you to hear what Paul writes. He says, "For since the creation of the world, God's invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even His eternal power and Godhead, so that people are without excuse." What verse 20 teaches us is that God has made Himself known. We know that God is real because God has revealed Himself as real. The corollary to that in the Old Testament would be Psalm chapter 19. Psalm chapter 19, in more poetic language, begin verse 1. "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows His handiwork. Day unto day utters speech, and night unto night reveals knowledge. There is no speech or language where their voice is not heard. Their line is gone out through the earth, their words to the end of the world. In them God has set a tabernacle for the sun, which is like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, rejoices like a strong man to run its race. Its rising is from one end of the heaven, its circuit to the other end, and there is nothing hidden from its heat." So the psalmist in Psalm 19, 1 through 6 says the same thing that Paul writes in Romans 1:20. And what they both write is that God has revealed Himself in creation. But that's not enough for some. C.S. Lewis said, "Atheism turns out to be too simple. If the whole universe has no meaning, we should never have found out that it has no meaning." So he attacks atheism and says, in his day, atheism meant the universe doesn't have any meaning. But how do you know that it has no meaning? If it has no meaning, what would be the foundation of you making that statement? Of course it has meaning, and that was Lewis's point. There are people who do not believe in God. Some are agnostic. The agnostic says that you cannot know with certainty that there is a God. The only thing certain that an agnostic could say is that God, if He exists, is not knowable. The atheist says that He knows everything. And because He knows everything, there is no God. To state with certainty that there is no God demands that an individual have complete understanding of the entirety of the universe. Otherwise, there cannot be the possibility of God. So what we do is we say, no, there is God. God has revealed Himself through creation. And He's revealed Himself to me through the Bible and through a relationship with Him. So how do you know God is real? If you're talking to someone who says, well, I just don't know if God is real, there are different approaches that you can take. The first, and these are classical approaches, I would contend that the best way for you to talk to someone who doesn't believe that God is real is just tell them your personal experience with God. I think it's the most powerful way. But if that's not sufficient, the first approach you can use is the cosmological argument. See, that's something of what Paul was saying, the psalmist was saying. Psalmist said, you've got the sun and it rises every day in the east and sets every day in the west. Somebody's got to be in control of that. Paul wrote, God has revealed Himself, His invisible attributes through creation and through conscience. The cosmological argument is the argument of first cause. If you begin with the universe and peel back the layers, you've got to see that there is some cause. Causality, in my opinion, and in philosophers' opinion, implies the existence of a great unmoved mover, the one who makes it. For instance, if you were to blow up a balloon, the air would fill up the balloon. Every cause, the blowing up of a balloon, has an effect of filling up the balloon. If you were to throw a rock at a window, the window would crack or shatter. Every cause you throw a rock has an effect. The window cracks or shatters. When we consider the world in which we live, we work back from the effect. We have the universe, and we want to see what the cause is. And given that every effect has a cause, there can't be a universe without cause. These are syllogisms and logic from philosophy. No matter how far one is willing to unwrap the layers of effect, there is a necessary cause behind each layer until you get to the beginning. For instance, if you consider the Big Bang created the world in which we live, what is the cause of the Big Bang? If someone suggests that the Big Bang is a series of bits becoming coherently ordered, then there must be a cause for what created the bits. Every layer must conform to the same laws of nature. There must be a cause beyond the natural. There has to be a cause beyond the natural law. There must be a beginning point. The poof theory says the universe came from nothing, but this is contrary to even the ancient principle, which states from nothing comes nothing. There's no experience that we have that would lead us to believe the opposite to be true. Namely, there's nothing that we have experienced that says everything came from nothing. Indeed, since all of science assumes causation, it is more reasonable, more scientific to believe such a theory that says everything came from nothing to be false. There is an effect, the universe. There must be a cause, and the most solid cause is a great unmoved mover, I believe to be God. How do you know God is real? Look at the universe and tell me who painted the sunset, who formed the mountains. Great unmoved mover. So one way to prove the existence of God is move from effect to cause. We have a universe. How did it get here? Big Bang. Well, where did the Big Bang come from? Little bits. Where did the little bits come from? Keep unpeeling the layer and say, I believe it's God. Second, if the cosmological argument doesn't work, you can go to teleological argument. Teleological argument is the argument from design. When we examine the natural laws and the fine-tuning of the universe that makes life possible, we see that God is the maker of life. Suppose you went on a vacation resort and television is turned on to your favorite program. On your table is a favorite meal prepared and waiting with just the perfect dessert that you've been craving. Suppose there's a glass of iced tea with the right amount of sweetener provided. In the bathroom, every personal care item is displayed with the exact brand and type that you prefer. Immediately, you begin to rummage through your list of friends or family who tipped off the manager and organized such a welcome for you. You would not, however, immediately believe that such a welcome was a series of lucky coincidences, lucky guesses. The laws of physics indicate, quote, if the value of even one of the fundamental constants, the speed of light, mass of an electron, had been the slightest degree different, end quote, then there would not be life on planet Earth. The intricacies of coding in a single DNA strand assert a design of some sort. It is a mathematical impossibility that all the amino acids in DNA are the same molecular orientation, but that impossibility is essential for DNA to exist. If there were no difference in mass of neutrons and protons, then life would be impossible. If gravity were slightly stronger, then the stars would burn out in a year and the universe would be devoid of life. If it were slightly weaker, if gravity were slightly weaker, then the stars would not form and the cosmos would be just a blur. When you have a pack of cards and you open them for the first time, what do you find? You find the cards placed in specific order, and that points to somebody had to put those cards in there in that order. Take the open stack of cards and throw them in the air as high as possible. Would you expect that the cards would land in exactly the order that they should be? The delicate balance of conditions necessary for intelligent life points to the existence of God. We cannot know the world at all unless it was designed for knowledge. We would not be asking questions about God at all unless we were somehow designed to ask the questions. The existence of human life points to a designer who is God Himself. The intricacies of His creation and purposes of the human life declare His magnificence in its artistry. The cosmological argument, first cause. Teleological argument, the design. There's a third way to prove the existence of God. It's the moral argument. There is the existence of morality within each culture and human being. This assertion points to the existence of God, who has given the recognition of what is right and what is wrong. It's not the Bible or other religious pursuits that communicate objective moral values. They're properly basic to each culture. Do not murder is a basic moral in every culture. Do not lie, basic moral in every culture. When we look at Romans 1 again, sorry, I got to get back there. Romans 1:20, and you hear what Paul wrote. He says, since creation. Start in verse 18, Romans 1:18. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and righteousness of men, suppress the truth in unrighteousness, because what may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has shown it to them. He's talking about this moral code in verse 19. Even an atheist philosopher named Kai Nelson says, this is a quote, "It is more reasonable to believe such elemental things as wife beating and child abuse to be evil than to believe any skeptical theory that tells us we cannot know or reasonably believe any of these things to be evil. I firmly believe that this is the bedrock and right, and that anyone who does not believe it cannot have probed deeply enough into the grounds of his moral beliefs." So his point is, if you have wife beating and child abuse and you don't believe that's evil, then you've messed up. He's saying even an atheist says that there are objective moral values in the human heart. So the question is, if God does not exist, then where do the objective moral values come from? Nothing places value to human beings if God doesn't exist. The naturalist claims that humans have an awareness of morality because of its value to biological advancement. It's a mere aid to survival and reproduction. In essence, for the naturalist, the foundation of moralities vanish when survival is not part of it, part of the issue. The atheist, morality is merely a function of what is best for the individual. The ethic of compassion runs counter to the principle of survival of the fittest, though, and compassion is part of every culture. The truth affirmed by rational people is that there is a right and there is a wrong, and these moral values are objective. And since moral law appears to be universal to every culture, it seems logical that moral values are intrinsically coded into the very personhood of individuals. And this is another reason to believe in God, who is the lawgiver. You have the cosmological argument, you have the teleological argument, first cause, cosmological, teleological, the design, moral argument, the lawgiver. So how do you know God is real? Again, God has revealed Himself. We affirm that God has revealed Himself in the person of Jesus Christ. who made that God in whom we believe is the one true God who made the heavens and the earth. That God fine-tuned the universe, that everything, Colossians 1, everything was made through Jesus and everything was made for Jesus, and by Jesus, everything holds together, everything consists. And God right now is holding the fine-tuning of His universe together. So today I just want to challenge you, again, read Psalm 19, 1 through 6. Read Romans 1, begin at verse 18 and read through the end of Romans chapter 1. And consider how these passages help you see the reality of God. How do you know God is real? Well, first, that begins with a relationship with God through faith in Jesus Christ. Jesus died for your sin upon a cross and He was raised to give you new life. My prayer is that if you don't know that God is real, look first to Jesus, and He makes God known to you. I hope this helps, and I hope you do even further study. If you want any more information about any of the arguments on the existence of God, I encourage you to send me a note. You can send a note to pastor@firstnorfolk.org, and maybe I can even send you my document with footnotes. Hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next week.